Hey folks, Nigel here from Sonrai Security. Now, what if I told you that one of AWS's most powerful security controls, service control policies, could be completely bypassed? Well, that's exactly what I discovered in a subset of Amazon Bedrock, and after reporting it, AWS fixed it in just 10 days. First, some context. Service control policies are AWS's centralized security guardrails. Think of them as the ultimate no switch. No matter what permissions an IAM user or role has access to, an SCP can override this, blocking specific actions across the entire account. Now, we at Sonrai Security do a lot of work with SCPs. So when AWS released Amazon Bedrock powered by AWS Mantle, which is their OpenAI compatible API for Bedrock, I wanted to test whether SCPs could restrict model access like they do for regular Bedrock. And that's where things got interesting. I set up a simple test. Deny Bedrock Mantle permissions via SCP, and then try and perform those actions from a principal that should be denied. So we go to the terminal, sign the request via SigV4, and boom, we get our SCP denial message. Now, this would normally be it, but it turns out there are other ways to authenticate a request in Bedrock, short and long-term API keys specifically. So let's try those too. Well, when we try with short-term API keys, we get the response we expect. We're blocked by the SCP. But long-term API keys using service-specific credentials, well, those ones work, and the SCP is completely ignored. I spent a while thinking that I had misconfigured something, but after extensive testing, the pattern was clear. Long-term keys were bypassing SCP enforcement entirely. So what subset of permissions did this affect? Well, it turns out that all permissions in the Bedrock Mantle IAM namespace were vulnerable, while all permissions in the Bedrock IAM namespace behaved as normal. So why does this matter? Well, imagine you're a security team that's restricting access to certain AI model families across your organization via SCP. And this is a practice that AWS even highlights in their own docs. Well, a user with sufficient Bedrock Mantle permissions and the ability to create service-specific credentials could get around these restrictions by creating a service-specific credential for themselves, then using it as a long-term Bedrock API key to access the models that were explicitly blocked via SCP. In doing so, they completely bypass your centralized controls. And this breaks the entire premise of SCPs as the ultimate security boundary. A user in a member AWS account bypassing controls implemented from the management account. On January 20th, I reported this to AWS through their vulnerability disclosure program. 9 days later, AWS had already deployed a fix. SCP enforcement now works correctly across all authentication mechanisms, and no customer action was needed. In my mind, the takeaway from this exercise is 1, always test your security controls, especially with new features. Cloud security is getting incredibly complex, with new authentication mechanisms appearing regularly. And 2, even industry-leading providers can have gaps. AWS fixed this very quickly, but it did exist in production for a few weeks. The scope was narrow, but the principle matters. Any SCP bypass breaks a fundamental security assumption in AWS. As for me, I'm going to keep testing AWS security controls as new features continue to roll out. Most of the time, I'll probably just gain more confidence that the platform works as intended, but occasionally we'll discover more interesting stuff like this. If you want to dive deeper, check out the full technical write-up below. And if you enjoyed this breakdown of real-world security research, keep an eye out for more content from Sonrai Security, and thanks for watching.